Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. Shop online and get $30 off your first online order when you use code SAVE30 at checkout. Get the same prices, deals, and rewards as in-store. Get started at Safeway.com or the Safeway app.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Did you manage to dodge the hail yesterday? Fingers crossed. That should be the stormiest day this week. We now have lots of sun in the forecast, and by Friday, temperatures could hit 100. You may be seeking cover for shade. I'm Bazi Kanani. Coming up, could wildfires be fought better across the West? President Trump thinks so and is ordering changes.
You got to be careful that it doesn't also create confusion, more inefficiencies, and demoralization.
Also, a Colorado deputy makes a routine traffic stop, then tips off immigration officials.
The sheriff's office didn't come out and admit, hey, we violated state statute, but they did suggest we might have been out of step with that.
The story of a college student who's landed in ICE detention. Plus, you'll hear the sounds of Juneteenth.
I'm out here to show people that are over the age of 60 that you don't have to retire to your rocking chair.
It's Wednesday, June 18th. Here's what's happening in Colorado today. The Trump administration says it wants to modernize how the federal government fights wildfires. The president issued a new executive order affecting the workforce and the technology the country uses. CPR's Ishan Thakur has been reporting on what this means for Colorado. Ishan, what problem is the president trying to solve?
So Trump has been really critical of how California has handled the devastating fires earlier this year in LA. Generally, he says firefighters have to rely on outdated technology and that, quote, unnecessary regulation and bureaucracy is hindering their ability to respond quickly to wildfires.
So with this executive order, what does Trump want the federal government to do differently?
So Trump is directing the EPA to remove barriers to prescribed burns. Those are fires intentionally lit to clear out brush and other fuels that would make a future wildfire a lot worse. He also wants satellite data that could be used for firefighting declassified. It's not entirely clear where that satellite data is from, but part of that order is directed towards the Department of Defense. He wants to use AI in firefighting at the state and local levels. And perhaps most controversial, he wants to combine the various federal departments that do wildland firefighting.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so it might be helpful to understand how this all works. Right now, the government's wildland fire response is split between the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Interior. Those departments then divvy up responsibilities to the Forest Service or the Bureau of Land Management. And they already work together quite a bit for any big wildfire, along with state, local, tribal partners. Trump is saying put all those federal firefighting units under one roof, combine their budgets, their operations. It's not entirely clear under which roof this is all going to sit, but it's likely the Interior Department. And Trump has given these agencies 90 days to do all of this.
How is that directive being received? Is this a good idea to combine firefighting operations like that?
Yeah, so I've been asking people about this, and I've gotten kind of mixed responses. Steve Ellis was a wildland incident commander, and he now chairs the National Association of Forest Service Retirees. So he's seen multiple attempts over both Republican and Democratic administrations to separate out the Forest Service firefighters from other parts of the agency.
It's a wonderful method to create what I would say an illusion of progress, right, to the public. But you got to be careful that it doesn't also create confusion.
And there was this analysis done in 2008 by the Congressional Research Service. It found that a separate wildland fire agency might have, quote, significant drawbacks. That's because not all fires need to be put out. A joint agency might separate firefighting from how the federal government otherwise manages its lands. And congressional researchers thought that would be a problem since, some fires deep in the woods are actually really helpful for ecosystems. But a policy expert I talked to thought we are so far behind in dealing with climate-fueled fires that we actually need new ideas.
This is an effort to hopefully improve wildland firefighting, but it comes as the Trump administration is also cutting the workforce for this.
Yeah, and that's a major complaint from people I talked to who saw this order and felt like it was misguided. So the Trump administration has already cut around 10% of the Forest Service's workforce, and many of those employees are actually trained to fight fires as well. And it's not just firefighters who have been cut. The Trump administration has cut federal workers who monitor wildfire risk and analyze climate science. At the Department of Health and Human Services, the administration even cut investigators who investigate firefighter deaths. And those investigations try to prevent deaths in the future.
With all of those cuts that we've seen, are we prepared for wildfire season?
Yeah, it's a really hard question, in part because no one really knows how many wildfires we're going to get this year. But, to be clear, hiring for seasonal firefighters is roughly on track. The Forest Service says it's at around 96% of its goal for the season. And just last week, the Forest Service asked employees who had taken Trump's buyout or deferred resignation offers to come back and help with wildfire season.
CPR climate reporter Ishan Thakur, thank you.
Thanks, Bazi.
A University of Utah student was pulled over in Colorado a couple of weeks ago for a routine traffic stop, and now she's being held in ICE detention. A deputy from the Mesa County Sheriff's Office stopped her for driving too close to a semi-truck while passing through Fruta.
You are way too close to that semi. Oh. He even had to brake check you to get you off a little bit.
We know what happened next from the body camera footage that just came out and from an interview the Salt Lake Tribune did with the young woman's relative. They said the deputy told Caroline Diaz-Goncalves that her driver's license looked fake and asked her,
"Where are you from? You got a little bit of an accent."
I'm from Utah.
You're from Utah? Okay. How long you lived in Utah for?
Like 12 years.
Born and raised or no?
She was born in Brazil, but has lived in the U.S. since she was a child and reportedly has an asylum case pending. At one point, the deputy asked her to come and sit in his police vehicle and kept asking her questions.
Is your boyfriend expecting you or is it a surprise?
He's expecting me.
In the end, he let her go with only a warning. But just a few miles down the road, immigration officers stopped her and took her into custody. CPR's Tom Hess is reporting on the relationship between the Mesa County deputy and ICE. Tom, what have you learned about how ICE got tipped off in this case?
Well, the sheriff's office basically told us that Diaz-Goncalves was stopped because of this communication between the sheriff's deputy and immigration officers. Now, that came through what they're calling a communication group. This includes Western Slope Law Enforcement, CSP is in that, Colorado State Patrol, and federal officers. It's meant for drug interdiction, so stopping the flow of drug trafficking. This is near a state border, so you can see how that makes sense. What it's not for, at least as the sheriff's office tells us, is to pass along immigration status. That's a practice that the Mesa County Sheriff's Office admits contradicts Colorado law.
Yeah, in fact, isn't it illegal for Colorado law enforcement to share people's immigration status with the feds?
Yeah, there is state law that limits how much local law enforcement can pass along immigration data or do enforcement actions for federal immigration officials. Now, the sheriff's office didn't come out and admit, hey, we violated state statute, but they did suggest we might have been out of step with that. Now, the ACLU of Colorado legal director, Tim McDonald, told me that from what he's seen, it sure looks like this might violate state statutes that are meant to limit this sort of information sharing.
Tom, you mentioned that communications group the deputy used is supposed to help the feds make drug busts. Is that essentially right?
Yes.
And it does not appear that Diaz-Goncalves had a criminal record. Was she suspected of having drugs?
We've seen no indication that this had anything to do with the typical drug stop. That didn't come up in the questioning. And in the statement that the county sheriff's office put out, they kind of acknowledged that unfortunately, this channel that was meant for drug interdiction resulted in the later contact between ICE and Miss Diaz-Goncalves.
So the sheriff's office then does say this stop by ICE is not how it should work. Are they doing anything to prevent it from happening again?
So they noted that they did not know this group was being used for immigration enforcement or for sharing immigration status. And because of this, they've removed everyone from their office from that communication group. Now, as for the deputy who made the stop, the sheriff's office won't comment on if there's further investigations going on or if maybe there's a disciplinary action that has been taken or could be taken.
Can you tell us more about this young woman, Caroline Diaz-Goncalves?
Yeah, so a lot of the reporting on this comes out of the Salt Lake Tribune. She came here with her parents 12 years ago, reportedly after being robbed and held hostage by gangs several times in Brazil. A relative told the Tribune that they came here for a better life, and it appeared that's sort of the track she was on. An attorney from ACLU says she has no criminal record. She's enrolled at the University of Utah. She's studying nursing. She's actually on a merit scholarship. And in the meantime, her parents, while they were waiting on this asylum claim, they'd been given work permits, driver's licenses, and Social Security numbers.
Any idea what might happen to Diaz-Goncalves next?
It's always tough to get information on these sorts of immigration cases. These things can be a little bit murky, but her family is raising money to cover lawyer fees, maybe get her out on bond, but no promises as to where this goes.
CPR's Tom Hess, thank you.
Thank you.
Tomorrow is Juneteenth. Just 4 years ago, Joe Biden declared it a federal holiday. It goes by many names: Freedom Day, Liberation Day, or Emancipation Day. The holiday commemorates the effective end of slavery in the U.S. Organizers say it's a time to celebrate Black resilience and to reflect on the continued fight for equality. The annual Juneteenth parade in Denver took place last Sunday, and it was sweltering out there. Denverite's Kevin Beatty asked participants and spectators how they're feeling, particularly at this political moment with rollbacks to DEI in government and the private sector.
The weather's nice, and we really enjoy the fact that people are really excited about seeing something like this with all the stuff that's going on in the world right now.
90-year-old veteran Joseph Thomas marched in the parade. For him, Juneteenth's message is clear.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Freedom. Plain and simple. Word.
Marching with Thomas was fellow veteran Maurice Marshall. He said all Americans can understand the importance of that word, freedom.
To me, as far as freedom is concerned, there's no discriminatory in that, because we've all been enslaved in one way or another, mentally, physically, or spiritually.
Juneteenth parades have lots of colors, costumes, and performers. Leilani Hayes was one of the festival's dancers.
Yes, this is my 4th year doing it.
For her, Juneteenth is a chance to showcase African-American talent.
Because it's one of the biggest events of the year, and I feel like my team, we try to bring our all to show people what Denver's really about and what our dance team can bring to the table.
For others, the festival is a time to connect with community.
It's Juneteenth, so anytime we gather as a community, as a culture, and as a people, that's always reason to make sure you show up, and you show up authentically, lovingly, and you just ensure that you stay connected with your people.
Median Schaffner is a community organizer and CEO of the group Epitome of Black Excellence and Partnership. For her, Juneteenth is also a time to work for justice. In the parade, she carried signs calling for justice for Jalen Sebron, Kylan Lewis, and Elijah McClain, Black Coloradans who were killed by police.
So this is the exact place that we bring the pain, we bring the promise, we bring the progress, and we have to be ready to hold the tension of our pain and make sure that we as a community understand that when we're hurting together, and when we get through this, we never have any family walk that journey alone.
Another marcher in the Juneteenth parade had a message of hope. Terilyn Moore-Smith is Ms. Colorado Senior 2025.
And I'm out here to show people that are over the age of 60 that you don't have to retire to your rocking chair.
Moore-Smith was a trailblazer, the first Black woman to work in the Denver Police Department's gang unit. She wants the next generation to pick up where she left off.
So I think it's really important to have diverse people be police officers. We need trans police officers. We need people of every color. We need people that are educated to be police officers and make this more equitable.
As a Colorado pageant queen, Moore Smith's job on this day was to walk around the festival, talk to folks, play with children, and to model the joy in Black community.
It's the best job I've ever had.
I hope you're having a good week. We'll be off for Juneteenth and then back in your feeds on Friday. See you then. I'm Bazi Kanani. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. Save a trip to the doctor and let their pharmacists test and prescribe your medicines. From strep throat to birth control to UTIs and migraines. Stop into the store or schedule online at safeway.com/pharmacy.